John here with Ripewave Audio, and for this video, we're going to give you a summary of what we're doing with our testing of AV processors and receivers. And of course, we've been focused on 7.1.4 and better capable AV receivers and processors, and we also aim to look at those that are just under $5,000, well, we had one exception. But we've been doing this testing over the last year, starting in the fall of 2022, and we've continued on. We did the last video about 6 months into the year, and now we're here back again. We've tested 3 more AV receivers and processors since then, and we want to let you know where we're going with future testing. We're not stopping. So we have tested about 10 models. They're from Arcam and Denon and Monoprice and Onkyo, Emotiva, Anthem, Marantz, and Yamaha. And of course, with the Denon and Marantz, we tested 2 each of those models, so making a total of 10 there. And when we go through our testing, we do look at a couple of things. One, we review all the feature sets along with the unboxing, but we also then talk you through the setup process. Is this user-friendly? Were there some glitches in the setups? Or did everything go smoothly? And then finally, what we do is we do a listening test. And what we want to do is compare against the other models that we've seen. Now, we always have our Emotiva RMC-1 processor in-house and our Marantz Cinema 50 as well through this whole year. And that serves as reference points so we can judge where these that we're currently testing fall as far as sound quality. And we look at this over a 2-axis scale. We look at it as really how rich the sound is, or does it sound thin, on the y-axis. And on the x-axis, we look at how spacious, wide the sound field is, or does it seem confined? So these 2 categories, and then we plot them, and we found out that these generally fall into one of 3 tiers. At least those are the groupings we have to date. There might be a 4th tier out there where, we're always hoping that there's a tier higher on sonic quality, right? As we bring in more products, we always hope there isn't a tier lower. But of course, we haven't gone and tested really those sub $1,000 receivers. So there may very well be a tier lower, but that would take you out of the category for the speaker layouts that we've been aiming for in this first year of testing in-house AV processors and receivers. So we went through all this, and as of right now, the Yamaha RX-A8A really seems to have some of the best sound characteristics despite not using Dirac or one of the more popular room corrections, but it does have its own Y-POW, and I didn't feel like it was as bad as what everybody says, but the other ones that fell into the category of the top tier weren't receivers, but they were all processors from Monoprice and Arcam and Emotiva and Anthem. As far as sound quality, we found some glitches and so forth. I yet to find the perfect AV receiver or processor. There always seems to be a compromise out there. Wouldn't it be nice if there was just one product out there that checked all the boxes as far as feature sets? Now, some come very close. Usually Denon and Marantz are the ones that check the most boxes out of them, but there's others out there that have things that Denon and Marantz don't. So, for example, it doesn't always have balanced outputs, or never mind, no balanced inputs, at least on the models that we looked at so far. So these are the types of things we're talking about, and I think each of you have to go and think of your own criteria. This is not all about sound quality, but you need to balance out what do you want for feature sets, what are deal breakers in your mind. If it doesn't have this, there's a lot out there that says if it doesn't have Aural 3D, move on. Others say, I don't care. I don't need Aural 3D. I just want this thing to sound perfect. So everybody has their own criteria. We're trying to present this in such a way that you can make those informed decisions going out there. So where do we go from here? Now, as you can see, we're sitting here today with nothing hooked up to our snake cables here, right? So we either do unbalanced or balanced connections to our AV receivers and processors and hook them up to our amplifiers, but we don't have anything right now. We have a couple units going back from Monoprice and from Arcam, going through the RMA process. So where do we go from here? Now, there's a few things that are on our radar, and there's one product out there that's coming from Denon to go above the AVR-X4800H, which we did review, and that's that $2,500 one that has really good quality and is a tier above the Marantz Cinema 50, which sells for the same price. And so that was released this year, and now coming in 2024 is the X6800H. This will replace the 6700H and will be $1,000 more than the 4800, but thank goodness that it is much less money than the AVR-A1H, their flagship. So this will sit in between those two models, the 4800H and the A1H, as far as new products with full 8K capability with all the HDMI inputs and outputs supporting 8K. So I'm separating it out from their prior generation products. So this fits in between those two models, and this is a welcome addition because there's a big space in between them. And it is $1,000 more than the 4800 at $3,500, but it gives you 2 more channels of processing, and this will let you do configurations up to a 7.4.6 or a 9.4.4. So what the 4800 couldn't do is front-wide speakers, and it didn't support DTS:X Pro, and it didn't support all the Auro 3D layouts, although it supports Auro 3D. So what we're hoping for, and I've kind of guessed at what the speak layouts will be, that the 6800 will support, will be 2 channels less than the A1H flagship. And as far as amplification, it is 11 channels of amplification versus 15 in the flagship, but 2 more channels of amplification than the 4800. And we'll be doing it at 140 watts per channel, or if it was all channels driven, 70% rule with Denon Marantz, that would give you 98 watts per channel, all channels driven, of course, AB amplification. So we have that to look for, and I'm excited because this is one of the first products with DTS:X Pro that is in this price range that will be available. So look out for that. Now, cosmetically, the 6800 looks just like the 4800. Now, on the back, there's some subtle differences, but unless you go up close to this, you would think it was one of the other models. So let's look at the full list of what we've tested and what we're thinking about doing next. So of course, we started with the Emotiva RMC-1. Then we went to the Anthem AVM 78K, the Marantz Cinema 40, the Denon X4800H, the Cinema 50, the Denon X3800H. Then we had the Onkyo TX-RZ50, the Yamaha RX-A8A, and the Monoprice HTP-1, and the Arcam AV41 products. All were in-house here, and we looked at them all, and we went through our careful analysis of all of these. And as I said, these all sit under $5,000, except for the Arcam AV41. Well, I purchased it for $4,200 on sale. It's now back to its normal price of $5,200. I felt like $4,200 was a fairer price for what the product is, particularly given the similar sound characteristics as an Emotiva or with the Yamaha, but yet it wasn't just quite as good. So can't justify the extra price on that alone. Now, I will say that the Arcam did implement Oral 3D where some of them don't, and it did it in a better way. You give more options. You can put the voice of God in there. You can put the center height channel in the front where you can't on some of these other models that I've previously tested. So this is what we found out. Of this group, a good number of them do support Oral 3D, but yeah, the Arcam probably did it in the best way as far as the support there. And then, little things that we've noticed, like the Monoprice supporting front wides with a synth mode. You didn't see that on the other models. Of what we looked at, there were about 4 models that would do 16 or plus channels. The Emotiva, the Anthem, the Monoprice, and the Arcam all were in that 16 channel class, where the other ones were lower there. But as we move forward, what are we going to look at? Sony has been a big request by a lot of you out there, and I'm kind of excited to bring this in. Of course, I had for 20 years in this theater running the Sony TAE9000ES AV processor, which was introduced in, I think, 1998. And that served me very well, but I really haven't felt like to run out and get another Sony processor. Well, they didn't have processors. They've gone all receivers, and their new line of ES receivers are just that, receivers and no processors. But the AZ7000ES has some interesting new features to bring in this 3-dimensional 360 sound that they have. And so we'll see what that gives us. So that's, I think, next on our list. And then also exciting is the new flagships from Integra, Pioneer, and Onkyo. Now, they don't give you more channel support than the lower models like the RZ50 that we brought in, but they're the first models that bring in Oral 3D. So here you can have that capability. They're really going toe-to-toe, I think, with Denon and Marantz, trying to undercut them in price, but deliver things like Dirac Live for no additional charge. I would really love the ability to bring all 3 of these in at the same time to tell you the difference between Integra, Pioneer, and Onkyo from a sonic capability. We do expect the firmware to be identical. More about that later. But do you actually hear a difference? That's going to be interesting. The Emotiva Basics MR1. Now, this is very much like the other products, the MC1, but has the amplification in it. Now they have the MR1L now as well. They're all based off the same processor. If we test one, we're testing them all essentially. Might as well get the MR1 to kind of get a sense on that whole range of basics, receivers, and processors. That's going to be interesting. I'd love to bring that in. We intended to bring that in at the beginning of the year, but we'll just have to re-engage with Emotiva to see if they'll get us one, or we'll find another way to do it. And then we've got the 6800 from Denon. I'd love to bring that in. Once it gets released, it's not available quite yet. So that's high on our list. Then we got a bunch that we know are out there and we're not as excited about. They're in kind of a maybe column. The audio control should be very much like the Arcam. Now, given the problems we had with the Arcam, I'm not necessarily expecting to have those problems resolved, but do we get some sort of sonic difference when you move to the audio control, which is a separate company, but they base their products off of what Arcam produces. Then NAD. Now, NAD, I don't really think they've been keeping up with new models as much as others and haven't introduced as many new features, but they do have things like Dirac Live support. They just haven't come out with like an HDMI 2.1, but then Emotiva and Monoprice haven't either. The Sony also has the 5000 ES model. I think if I test the 7000, I pretty much got a sense what the 5000 is. so that's a little lower on my list. Then the other models from Integra and Pioneer, whether it's worthwhile going after those. And then same with the Basics MC1 from Emotiva. One not listed here that should note is Emotiva is planning an upgrade to the RMC1 line, and this will come out as a Plus model, which is a hardware swap out. They give you a credit back if you return what you already have, and it's I think a pretty reasonable upgrade fee from the RMC1, RMC1L, and XMC2 to the Plus models, but we are holding off putting on our list until they actually give us a date that's really, we can depend on at this point. I think it's pushed out into next year when it was originally scheduled for this last summer. So that's what we have in mind for products. Now, we think that bringing in the Integra and the Pioneer and Onkyo is a good time for that because the Aural 3D function wasn't available when they first released these. With the September firmware update, it is. Now, they've also added a few other things to that, some HDMI 2.1a support, Dolby Atmos playback capability, some more of their optimization for clip speakers for the crossover points has been added. They're raising the upper limit for direct delay times from 20 to 50 milliseconds, and they fix some issues with OSD, etc., and Bluetooth, and a few other minor bugs. So Integra is posting this. You can see the version that they have ends in 131. If we go and look at Pioneer's website, same firmware revision ending in 131 with the same list of features fixed here. They got the date of September 5th is when they launched this, and we get the same date on Onkyo as well with the same features and the same version. So you pretty much can tell that they're using a common code base for all this and just changing a lot of the branding on them. So that's why it's going to be interesting to see if you really get any sonic or other benefits to these beyond maybe some balanced inputs and outputs that differentiate these three flagships. Now, when I do this, I haven't really partnered with any manufacturer, or even reseller. I've been buying these just like anybody else, but then I'll return them within the window of return policies. But I think it's very important to understand the return policies of each one of the suppliers, the retailers that you work with. I'm just listing a few here, but they're just served as examples. So wherever you live in the world, you have different retailers and they have different policies. And it's just calling out, pay attention. Some of them are better than others. I think of the retailers that I've worked with, Crutchfield has had the best policies for return. They give you a 60-day window, 2 months, to evaluate the product. They give you a shipping label to return it, and it seems to be a good program they want run on the returns. Audio advice. They also talk about hassle-free returns, but theirs is only 30 days. And they charge you a $15 fee when you return. I think $15 is fair, and they do give you a return label. So that was fine. Now, Monoprice, 45-day money-back guarantee. Now, on a separate page, because this is what they list on their monolith site where the HTP-1 is listed. Unfortunately, they don't have their internal processes lined up. Most of their Monoprice products are 30-day returns. So when I looked at it online, my order, it said the window had expired and it had been 35 days. Well, I knew I had 45, so I called them up. And she says, no, you've exceeded the 30-day. And I says, yeah, but go on your website. It says 45 days. She says, give me a second. She says, okay, we're good. Go ahead, we'll issue the RMA. So sometimes you just got to know the rules and make sure that the retailer is following the rules that they've set. So in this case, they were fine. Once I explained it to them, they honored the 45-day money-back guarantee. Now I'm looking at buying direct from Sony for these for the 7000 ES, and I'm looking at their policy as 30 days, so not quite as good as some of the others, and they could be a 15% restocking fee. Now I don't know if it applies to these receivers, but I got to keep that in mind. And they also do say that shipping and handling charges are not refundable. Now, I think on Monoprice, I do have to pay for the return shipping. So be careful, know what you're in for before you buy, because if you want to try it and you think you may return it, be aware of these. Other things that we're thinking about. So as we're going to start bringing in products that will do DTS:X Pro and other things, and I want to be able to fully leverage that capability. I would like to put in front wide speakers. I'm pre-wired for them, so I need to get some speakers, and I need to get 2 channels of amplification to make up the difference. Now, these Polk LSI 15s are getting a little old. I'm thinking I may get new front towers and then take these older LSI 15s and make them the front wides and place them halfway in between the front speakers and the side surrounds, as shown in the diagram here. Also, Aural 3D. Now, I'm talking to Aural 3D now, and they're going to send me a demo disc, so it will help me there. I'm asking them the question, how important is it to have the Voice of God channel and the center height channel? I might end up putting those in our theater anyways, just so I know for myself, but I will kind of get their feedback on the importance there. And therefore, I can wire up these other configurations, and I can give some feedback to you on when we bring in things like the Denon X6800H. This is the difference between doing it in a standard Dolby Atmos speaker layout and the prescribed Aural 3D layouts, ideally at 13.1, which is their maximum configuration. So what do you think? Do you think we're on the right path for putting some content together, doing these testing in-house? Are there other things that you'd like to see us do? Did I miss something that's important to you and you think could fit into our program here? That feedback would be useful to the Ripewave audio community. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Consider looking at our Patreon channel at www.patreon.com/Ripewave. We have 3 tiers of membership. But if you want to do it more simply, you can hit that thanks button, do a one-time donation. Of course, it doesn't cost anything to hit the bell notification so you're informed when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.